We are sitting with Shadow, and I'm sorry, again, slight delay, and I'm taking my foot off the brake, but there we go, the first time we've seen Shadow in what feels like forever, as she sits on her perch of a marula tree. Oh, beautiful female leopard, the daughter of Queen Karula, for those of you perhaps for whom this is the first time seeing her. She's looking dolefully out across her territory on Arathusa. So she's about 150 odd meters from that male line, but as I said, she's not in any danger at all. I just wanted to rush you across here because at some point relatively soon we are going to have to leave. But what a spectacular way to start our cat streak again, and with two of our magnificent big cats almost in the same sighting. And she's looking exceptionally well. Full-bellied, healthy, comfortable. It feels like forever since we'd last seen her, but it's nice to see her looking so incredibly healthy. We were actually talking about her last night, funnily enough, and wondering where on earth she's been hiding from us all. And apparently it seems as though she's been hidden away on Hoffman's. Oh, good morning to Fuzzman Sparkles. You want to know if she might be up in the tree as a result of being chased up there by the lion. And the answer is no, probably not. She's actually sitting comfortably up at the top of the marula tree. Okay. Sorry everybody, there's some serious conversation happening in my ear, and unfortunately I think we're going to be pulling out of this sighting in the next 2 or so minutes. No, not 2 or so minutes, 30 or so seconds is we're going to be pulling out. Our stations, no worries, I'm going to be pulling out of this Mufuzzy Ingwe. Alright, now we're going to leave Shadow. It's been a wonderful time. Unfortunately, it's very brief, but we are going to be leaving in order to catch up with... so that we can sort out what's happening with the sighting and so that we can move off. But it has been wonderful to catch up, even if it is relatively brief, with the lovely Shadow. But we are going to be pulling out and moving off right now. So there we go. A brief catch up with Shadow. Last look. And while we get out of the sighting, we're going to send you over across to Stef.
Isn't it so wonderful that we get to see Shadow again after all these months? You know, for last night what we did was we broke, I think, that 81 days of lions in a row, and guess what? As soon as we break that one, Shadow comes out and plays again. You know, I can't quite help but think that there's some cosmic joke going on out there with us and these types of things. Isn't it just incredible? But something that is equally as rare as seeing Shadow on a morning safari is what we've got down here. Now, for all you insect lovers out there, get ready to get yourself a screen grab of these harvested termites. This is a harvested termite that is very rare to see in the Sabi Sands, and it's because they enjoy the wetter areas, or they enjoy wetter climates, or they thrive in wetter climates. Doesn't mean that you don't see them out here, but they definitely are a high felt or a plateau top species of harvested termites, and that is why I think they are moving their colony. The white members of this particular colony that you're having a look for are the immature alates. Now, termites are born in castes. In other words, they are born for a specific purpose and they only do that purpose, and they're designed for that specific purpose. These white alates that you see here are the flying ants, the immature flying ants, which will go and spread and create new colonies at a point, but they are being moved from one place to another. Now, that in itself is quite rare, because you'd never see termites moving colonies. I've very rarely seen it. I don't know why these termites are doing it, other than the fact that I think that because they are a wetter area termite, termites, sometimes they need to move to find water. These are water-dependent termites, and rather than dig tunnels underneath the ground, it's quicker and easier for them to move down slope. But of course, it leaves them exposed. Now, what we're going to try and do for you, which Andre is going to hate me for, is to try and get you a close-up picture of one of the soldier termites here. What I want you to have a look at and see if you can try and see is we're all used to the Macrotermes soldier termite with the massive mandibles on the front of their head, for which they protect their colony with. These particular termites have got a spray gun. Their head is round and they've got one long pointed snout, and from the end of their snout they can spray a mixture of formic acid and glue out of their faces at an enemy. And we're going to try and see if we can get you one of those. I want to show you one of these. They're just absolutely fantastically designed. Now, I'm going to see if I can point one out to you with a stick, and then we're going to see if we can get closer to it. All right, now where have you gone? All right, Andre, are you ready for this one, eh? There. These small, immature soldiers, have a look there. There are two of them next to one another. Have you got that, Andre?
Yeah.
Andre's got it. Well done. So have a look at that pointed snout. And they use that as a spray cannon. A chemical defense rather than as a mechanical defense to protect their charges. These are worker termites and the alates and these soldiers with their pointed snouts. Now I'm going to see if I can find you an adult one. Have a look here. Everybody, we've got a predator. Now Mary, you've asked me, do they know where they are going? Firstly, I just want you to have a look. Have a look at that fly. It's just caught one. He's just caught. That is like that leopard and that lion. That fly has just caught a termite. Isn't that incredible? He is just off to your left-hand side. Sorry, right-hand side. Let me see if we can see him. Excuse me, Mary, I'll get back to your question in a second. I just want to see if we can find that fly. No, he's managed to fly off carrying his termite in his face. All right, let's... All right, he's actually on. We'll see. He's going to come and hunt himself another one over here. So, Mary, you asked me, do they know where they're going? I actually do think they know where they're going. So what they would have done is they would have sent out scouts. These scouts or worker termites would have gone and scouted for a new area to put a new mound. You probably find with the drought, the water has just become a little bit too difficult to reach. They now need to move downslope to a better area to reach their water. And they would have then come back to the main colony, laying down a pheromone trail. And this is where I want to say that they actually know where they're going. They would have lain down a pheromone trail, and the colony is now following that pheromone trail to the new location. And let's see if we can find that new location. Here, as far as I can tell, is where they're emerging. Here, at the end of my stick, the end of my finger. This is where they're emerging. Have a look, this fly is going to come here again, sorry. There you got ambush predator. Look there, and he got one. There, he picked one out of the bunch, carried it away from the soldiers, and now he's busy killing it. There he is over there. They're quite vigilant. And so getting our finger close to these guys are difficult. Now this, I must say, is probably a first for Wild Earth, is watching flies prey on termites. Yes, that's what I said, a fly preying on a termite at the bottom of my stick. Have a look at that. He's just dropped his, there he goes. He's going to grab it now again. There he is there. Oh, no, that's just a burnet. So he's now just moved off there, but he'll come back again. He's over here. So that fly you're having a look at there is a predaceous fly. He's just come back here now again. It looks like he wants to hunt another one. I must say, they're picking them up and moving them with great ease, but they don't seem to be able to kill them quickly. I mean, this is the second time we've watched these flies hunt this termite, or termites, and they're not killing them. Here we go. He's going to grab another one. There, he's grabbed one. Here he is, yeah. Dropped it again. I just think it's their vigilance, actually, that is... we're disturbing them. That's mad. But anyway, back to, I keep on getting sidetracked here, excuse me. So back to the original statement. They follow a pheromone trail to the new colony entrance. And this is moving down slope. So let's go down slope following these termites and see if we can find where their new entrance is. And it's right here. This is where the new entrance to their new colony is, and it's not that much further. I would say probably in terms of vertical displacement about half a yard or so. But it's obviously a better site and making for a better colony site, and it's worth the risk of moving all the immature alates and there's even some adult alates here as well. Here's an adult alate here, but obviously not quite ready just yet. And this whole column is under siege. Just a full-on war going on here. Now, Trip, you've made an interesting statement. You said, would the queen move herself, or would she have to be moved by workers? Trip, so queens are mobile up to a point. This would be a young king or queen. And at this point, they're very mobile. At this point. When she finally is embalmed, for lack of a better word, or entombed is actually probably better, into her nesting chamber or brood chamber, where she then undergoes a change and becomes an egg-laying machine, her body swells up to many hundreds of times, can be many hundreds of times of her original size. And at that point, she's immobile. I would imagine, and I haven't seen this, to me this is a first. I've never seen termites migrating above ground like this. I always thought termites were sedentary inside their mounds, but it's quite obviously I was mistaken. And I would imagine that at this point she will be moved, if she hasn't been moved already. I can imagine that moving a colony is not the easiest thing to do, and it's probably been going on for most of the evening, but she would have been one of the first. The reason I say that is because the longer this colony is exposed for, the more predators it will attract, and this colony wouldn't risk moving the queen later on. It just doesn't make logistical sense for an animal that is as sophisticated as a termite. I would imagine that they've done something like this before. It's a behavioral trait that they're well used to, and it's worth the risk later on moving all these young alates, but she would have been moved earlier. Now, James, you've asked if there's a skewed gender ratio between male and females. That's actually a very interesting question, James. As always, you always pose these interesting questions. But I'm gonna say that they're skewed to females. Most of the termites in this colony would be females, sterile females. And so, yes, it is gender skewed, mostly in favor of the females who would be sterile. Males would only literally be produced as reproductive flying parts, as part of these alates. These flies. Let's watch him again. I think this is a tailed fly. I'm only just recently learning about predaceous flies. Another termite, and there he's busy killing. Get close to this one. Run the risk of chasing him off. There he's got a firm grip on that termite. Shaky signal time.
So it looks like, sorry, you might have lost signal with Stef there quickly, which happens on bushwalk from now and then. But these wildebeest are moving off, possibly to go and feed in the thickets now, taking those little calves with them. What a wonderful sighting to see these little calves up and moving about. It doesn't look like any of the others are giving birth today yet. Maybe later, who knows, or definitely within the next week. I'm sure there'll be a lot more calves being born. But that was a really, really lovely surprise. I'm so glad we got to see them. And there's not much else on these clearings, actually nothing else at the moment. A few birds, and that's about it. But we're going to still have a look around this area. Who knows what else we find. We're going to head kind of towards the Kruger boundary. With the Kruger boundary with Cheetah Plains, and just see what we can potentially find around there. It's very strange weather we're having this side on Cheetah Plains. Very, very overcast, misty and gloomy, as you can see. Apparently it's a bit clearer on Djuma side. Now, Jamie found the bird she's been looking for all morning. Let's go have a look.
I have actually, and what a lucky morning we have had. Lion, shadow, and now the bird I spoke about originally at the start of the sunrise safari, although admittedly somewhat shy this morning, but our wonderful ground hornbill trio. And this is the trio that we see regularly on quarantine in the open areas, and this is a particularly magnificent bird. Turkey-sized, roughly turkey-sized, although obviously with a much, much larger bill. And specialized snake and insect catchers. Oh, somebody's coming in. Looks like two males here. Hello, you two. What are you up to? Massively powerful bulls, and they're digging through a pile of dung, searching for dung beetles and dung beetle larvae. So this is basically a breakfast buffet for them. Look at them tossing the dung from side to side. And one beetle after another is biting the dust. The hornbills are having a marvelous time. For our new viewers, this is one of the most endangered species that we see. We're fortunate in that we actually see them relatively regularly. And this trio seems to have moved into this particular patch. This is the bird I was looking for at the start of the sunrise safari, the one that calls gook-gook, gook-gook-gook, gook-gook, gook-gook-gook. Beautiful, beautiful call. Studies from a couple of years ago have suggested that there are in fact only around 1,400 of these incredible birds left in the wild. The number might be recovering slightly due to seriously concerted conservation efforts. And just recently, Brent and myself went on a trip to Buffelshoek to go and visit some friends there. And we were treated to an incredible sighting of a nesting female ground hornbill tucked away in her hollow in a marula tree. And that is a rare sight indeed, and that's why I've been looking for these hornbills in the hope that perhaps we find a nest site for you. Because there's nothing as special as watching something like that. These ground hornbills, it can take years to breed. They take 7 years to reach sexual maturity. They mate for life when they do mate, and they are very, very picky breeders. And what I mean by that is if something disturbs them, if something in some way, if their tree gets pushed over by an elephant or something upsets them in some way, perhaps a visit by a snake, they can take years to find a suitable nesting site and breed once again. It's one of the reasons why they have become, obviously humans have played a massive role, but their slow breeding process is one of the reasons why they have become a relatively definitely an endangered species. And good morning to Justin S. He wants to know, just in terms of giving you a sense of scale, if we were to go and stand next to a ground hornbill, how tall would they be in comparison to us? Justin, their heads would probably come up to just above my knee. So I'm 5'7" to give you a little bit of perspective in terms of scale. So I'm 5'7", and the hornbill, yes, would probably come up to just above my knee. They're very cheeky birds. They learn to be cheeky. Some of you might have travelled through the Kruger and encountered them before, and more than one tourist has left with their deposit no longer intact on their rental cars as a result of ground hornbills coming scurrying towards them and attacking their cars. I'm not sure if it's a reflection-based thing, because hornbills, of course, are notorious for attacking their own reflections. They're lovely birds, but they do have a tendency to attack their own reflection. They don't seem to learn that their reflection is not, in fact, a rival hornbill. Look at them, they're having the best breakfast ever. But what I'll try and do, perhaps I haven't done this for a long time, but perhaps we could do it with the hornbills. When they move off, I'll go and stand where they were standing, and we'll try and get a sort of an idea next to some of the trees, surrounding trees and so on, just how tall they are. Obviously, I'm not going to go and scare them away. So let's think of sort of from there. If you can take a screenshot now with their heads up, and then I will go and stand where they have been standing, and we can get a comparison. Our Candy Boy, I'm just trying to establish whether or not this is in fact a mating pair of hornbills. I've just seen one feeding the other. Now, what it could be, because looking under that one's chin, there seems to be a little bit of a blue patch, but it's so bulgy, I don't think it's a female. I think we've got two males here. The females have a very clear blue patch underneath their chins. So we have two males. The third one has gone running off, and that might have been the female. It's difficult to tell because she disappeared. But you can see relatively clearly on the females. There's the pouch underneath their chins or the gular pouch is not as prominent in the females. Their bills are not quite as well developed, and they have a blue patch under their chins. Now, I'm not sure if the female wandered off, but what it could be, because ground hornbills are complicated creatures, and they live in quite complicated family structures. It could be that, in fact, the female is nesting, and what we're seeing here is her mate and adult offspring. The one on the right is slightly older than the one on the left. You can see it just in terms of the development of the gular flap and the colour of it. It's much darker red, so that the one on the right is definitely a mature male. So what happens with ground hornbills is that they are cooperative breeders. So their adult offspring will actually stay with mom and dad even once they've reached adulthood, and they'll help mom and dad with their breeding. Come this way. Sorry, I just seen the third one emerge, but I'm not quite sure. Now I've lost track of which one's which. Might actually have... Look at this. Let's just watch their dynamics for a second. One's begging. We might have a dispersal group here. All begging from each other. The one is clearly much larger. The one in the middle is clearly the alpha male, clearly the fully grown male. But the other two look like they're males as well. So what it could be is a dispersal group they do, or it could be that the ground hornbills have had two male sons, and that they are still around learning to do the whole child raising thing or chick raising thing. It's a fascinating structure because research has shown that unless offspring actually stick around and help the adults to raise... Oh, hold on. Sorry. I've got to be on the Game Drive channel. There's just been an interesting update. Sorry, guys. I just have to chat on the Game Drive channel. If and when I have the opportunity to do so. This is interesting. Oh yes, I was talking about research. Research has shown that unless the adult offspring practice chick rearing with their parents, they actually don't breed successfully at all. So they have no success at all. Andrew, copy that. Thank you. I'm on Balanites at the Gari repeater. I'm going to be making my way in that direction. Confirm Lucas open. Copy that. Thank you. William is describing them as a coalition of ground hornbills, and that could well be. It could also be a dispersal group. So once they reach sexual maturity, the males will move off and they'll often form these little bachelor groups. And the females do the same thing. Now, they are slowly but surely disappearing, and I think our window of opportunity is about to vanish because Karula has just crossed onto Djuma. And if I don't start to move now, we all know how Karula disappears. I need to start moving in that direction to try and get to her. It's wonderful that we did find our ground hornbill, and we can still chat some more about them, but I'm going to start racing off in that direction. Now, Fush, you wanted to know what caused the ground hornbills to be endangered. Sorry, guys, they are disappearing though, so I don't feel too bad. A combination of things. One is habitat loss. As with most of our animals out here, they struggle in terms of finding appropriate habitat. Human beings have encroached more and more into their space, and as a result, they don't have appropriate nest sites. As I said, they're very choosy about their nest sites. And so as a result, they will, if their nest site is destroyed, maybe to clear to make way for a house or something like that. They're also used they're for some use in traditional medicine, but I've never managed to find out any information about what exactly or what part of them is used. But they are used in traditional medicine, although poaching incidents are quite rare. And then the other thing is when they attack their reflection in the window, they often smash the glass because they're big, powerful birds. It's not like a yellow-billed hornbill smashing and tapping on a window. It's a big, powerful bird. And for people that struggle to make ends meet every day to day and week to week, with kids and bills and responsibilities and very little income in a country like South Africa with immense socio-economic problems, just having a window smashed repeatedly is going to cause you a great deal of consternation, particularly when you're ignorant to the situation of what's happening with these birds and how endangered they truly are. To certain people, they are just a pest. And as tragic as that is, you can understand, because people don't necessarily know just how important these lovely birds are and how important their protection is. So that's one of the reasons. The overpopulation of elephants has been cited as a reason for the drop in ground hornbills. In South Africa, that is. In South Africa, we've got a very healthy population of elephants, and particularly in the Kruger National Park. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't buy it. I think ground hornbills and elephants have been living together for centuries quite happily, and it's only when you throw humans into the equation that balance gets upset. So you can't really turn around and blame the elephants for the loss of ground hornbills. That to me just doesn't make any sense. So those are the main reasons. And then of course they're picky breeding. They're picky breeding, and the fact that it takes them 7 years. 7 years of investment in one chick. Only one chick at a time. That's a huge amount of effort that goes into raising them. Okay, Karula, here we come. The reason I'm rushing off is that she crossed quite far away from where we are now. And unfortunately, the people that saw her cross are guides that are not allowed to come onto Djuma, just in terms of their traverse agreement. So what that means is that one of us has to try and get there relatively quickly, or else she's going to vanish. She's going to pull a Karula on us. way to start off our new cat streak. Shadow, and now potentially her mum. Right, well, while we race to where Karula was seen, let's go all the way across to Cheetah Plains to see what Byron's up to.
Jeepers, it sounds like Jamie's just doing all the big cats this morning. That's wonderful. I'm so happy. Sounds like she's going to potentially see Karula too. That would be great. Now, we haven't had any further luck on Cheetah Plains. No signs of Cheetah, that's for sure. Hoping to see the two big males, the territorial males that move through here. But unfortunately not. So we're going to start making our way back towards Djuma. Also, no sign of elephant anywhere. I'm looking for some leopard signs on this side, and just told Kat we must scan the trees and the termite mounds. Maybe we see a leopard lying up in one of the trees or on a termite mound. That would be wonderful. I know there are some leopards out on Cheetah Plains that I haven't seen yet, so I would like to try and get a glimpse of some of them. Marley, you wanted to know, or back to those wildebeest, and you wanted to know, would the males protect the females, the cows, while they are giving birth, and the youngsters, if there are predators around? I don't know, Marley, and it's difficult to say, and I say that because it's funny. Instinct for these animals is obviously to try and survive. So they try their best to avoid predators. Firstly, their own safety is a priority, and then the safety of the herd potentially. But what I have seen in the past is wildebeest, what they will do, depending on the predators though. Now, with lions, they generally run away because the lions are very big, very powerful, and it would be easy for lions to bring down a wildebeest. So I don't think the males would hang around to try and protect them from lions, because the lions will then just kill the males. However, I've seen with other predators, leopard, cheetah, wild dog, the wildebeest will congregate together and they form a front or a wall. They will stand facing the predators, horns out, and they go and they chase them, and they'll try and keep them away. So what they do is they'll often put the youngsters in the middle and they'll form a circle around them, and then they'll stop and try and chase whichever predator it is away. But I don't think they do that with lions. The other predators, yes. So like I said, cheetah, leopard, and probably wild dog, or definitely wild dog. I've seen them do it with wild dog. Wild dog pack has run in and tried to hunt the wildebeest, and the wildebeest all turn, form a circle, and try and protect the youngsters, and they chase the wild dog off, because those wildebeest adults are much too large for the wild dogs to hunt. So and especially when they work together like that. Actually, if the wild dogs really wanted to, if they could separate one from the herd, they could probably kill it, but generally it is a big antelope and not ideal prey for wild dog. And cheetah and that, they just chase them away very, very easily. So Marley, I hope that answers your question. Oh dear. Seems very quiet in this area this morning. Bird life is great. We've had some interesting birds around. Saw black-bellied bustard earlier. I know Jamie also had one this morning. And every now and then I see a clump of brown leaves, little dead leaves, and I think it might be a cat of sorts or predator lying in the thicket. Well, it's funny how the mind can play tricks on you out here. Your eyes see what you want them to see. So there really hasn't been a lot of wildlife. We've been fortunate with the zebra and the wildebeest that we've seen, but no sign of any animals just yet. But things change, things do change. Some little birds flying around, unfortunately a bit too quick for us to have a look at them. We call these LBJs, the little brown birds, the little brown jobs. That's what birders refer to them as. And the birds that are probably quite difficult to identify. You need to try and work out very quickly what family they are in, and then try have a look. Especially some of the larks, cisticulars. They all look fairly similar and very difficult to identify. Alright, we're going to start making our way back towards Djuma now and see if we can't find some more wildlife in that area. Let's head back to Stef, who's on the bushwalk.
Whoa, you welcome back. Excuse me jerking like that as you got to us. Something made a very funny noise in here. And when you're digging around under stumps out here in the bush, you always got to be careful about where you put your fingers. And something making a noise like that, oh, that was what it was. If you look inside there, you'll notice some sand. That sand came rolling down. Ooh, and I'm about to touch a violent spider. Wow. Okay, I must just be careful here. Alright, this stump is proving to be quite a wealth of things to look at. Inside there was what gave me a fright. Right here is the exoskeletons of a violin spider. Now, violin spiders are some of your most virulently venomous spiders that we have in South Africa, able to inflict a bite that'll break down your cells and cause necrosis and septicemia and all these wonderful things. And then we also have here, so I got that out of the mud here. I want to show you what this is. We identified this last year as a single-banded snail. Gets its name from that band that is on the shell that you can see there. Quite often you just find the empty shell casings like this. And it took me a long time. It probably took me 3 or 4 months to find out what snail this is. It wasn't logged anywhere in the Kruger National Park's mollusk file. So in other words, it was a species that was either new and hadn't been described yet, or wasn't listed as an indigenous or endemic species. And when I finally stumbled across this particular snail, the single-banded snail, it actually originates in Europe and is a invasive alien, but it's not recorded as an invasive alien. So what we've got is we've got this snail that is pervasive in this area of the Kruger National Park, and scientists either know that it's here but haven't recorded it as such, or don't know that it's here just yet. And so I sent it away to the Skukuza scientific department, and I'm waiting for a reply from them to say, yes, we actually know about this, there's nothing we can do about it, you know, we're hoping that a drought or a flood kills them, whatever the case may be. I'm hoping that the drought that we've had, which is arguably the worst that we've had in the last 110 years or so since we started recording rainfall areas, has had a dramatic effect on these snails. They obviously, coming from Europe, wouldn't be used to the absolute drought and the absolute lack of water and the temperatures that go with it. And I'm hoping that that has a sort of environmental capping ability on these particular snails. That said though, the other day on walk we did find a live one of these, so it didn't have a devastating effect on them. They're definitely still around. So that's the single banded snail that we found underneath here. And what else have we got in this stump? We have got a bunch of fish moths. I know you don't like fish moths because they eat holes in your clothes, but out here they do provide a vital service in the breakdown of organic matter. There is a fish moth there and there. So let's see if I can find you another one over here. They're proving quite flighty today. There's one coming out there now. There we go. Two just darting from cover. I don't want to dig around in here too much. This very fine web that you can see here, this white filamentous web, is the web spun by violin spiders. And although they look quite static and sedentary, they actually can move incredibly quickly over a short distance. Now, Barbara, you asked me just now, is the violin spider similar to your brown recluse spider? Absolutely. The violin spider is what we call them in South Africa, because on their back of their cephalothorax, which is, the spiders are divided into an abdomen and a cephalothorax where their eyes are and their legs come out of. If you look carefully and you use a lot of imagination, you can imagine there's a picture of a violin there. I battled to see it myself, but I can see the picture on the back there. Now, so yes, in short, it absolutely is. Now they look like they don't move fast at all, but let me tell you, a violin spider can cover the most amazing amounts of distance, and they bite a lot of people because they're aggressive spiders. They're not shy to bite. Some spiders are shy to bite. Baboon spiders, for instance, or tarantulas are shy to bite. You can handle them fairly safely, but you can't handle a violin or a recluse spider. They tend to be quite bitey things. Now, I found another thing on this stump as well, and I'm going to show you. See if you can see it. On this piece of wood, right here, have a look at that and see if you can see what is there. You see it yet? Can you see it, John? This piece of wood? Have a look at this locust right there. Can you all see him? That is one of the crested locusts. And that is just crazy, the way that is camouflaged the way it is. You can have a look at that. Now, a lot of you might be asking, how did I see that? It caught my eye basically because of the straight lines of their antennae right there. This piece of stump only has wavy lines on it, and that straight line was what gave it away, not because it moved or anything like that. Literally just that little straight line. Of course, I've been doing this for a long time now, and it's easy for me to, well, relatively easy for me to see these types of things. You get used to it in your environment, I suppose, you know, like I was always battling when I had my first child to see exactly what the doctor was seeing. Every time they put that funny scope thing on my wife's tummy to show me my son, I couldn't see what they were talking about literally until like 3 weeks before he was born. But it just comes down to what you're used to seeing and what you're trained to see. These are one of those things that I'm trained to see. This is full grown, and as far as I can see, this is a female. Female members of the crested locusts are flightless. They don't have wings. The males fly around and are attracted by the female's song and pheromones. And as you can see, she doesn't have any wings at all. She's just hiding out underneath this stump, staying hidden in the most spectacular way. Now, why the camouflage? Quite simply, a lot of the predators out here hunt by movement. So the way that they find their prey is through movement. And if you stay hidden and you are patient and you can calm your nerve and you stay hidden, there's a very good chance that predators just brush over you. A lot of other predators have now overcome this by having chemical receptors, and they can sort of smell out their prey. And for that, there's a defense as well. Some food or prey species, for lack of a better word, will disguise their scent either by mimicking the scents of other things or by plastering their bodies full of other benign insects. It's just the most amazing thing. When you get down to this scale, there is literally wonder around every corner, and this is literally just a piece of stump that we decided to pick up and have a look at what was under, and there's a whole world of things happening underneath here. Alright, so what?
We're on the search for something a little bit larger, and maybe not slightly harder to find. The hohos, which is a South African colloquialism for insects, the hohos can be secretive when they want to, and just like Queen Karula, I've found where she's crossed. She's moving straight towards Treehouse Dam. Unfortunately, we just weren't in time. All of the other vehicles had left, and she's disappeared off into the block on my left. When we talk about blocks, we mean the vegetation between the roads. That's what a block is. So she's in this block of vegetation off to my left. Let's just see if this impala looks like he's just seen a leopard. No, he doesn't look at all like he's just seen a leopard. He looks very relaxed. And now, the trick, of course, is to try and predict what Karula's going to do, putting yourself into the mind of the animal, as Brent always describes it. And the trick here, or the tricky thing here, is we don't quite know what she was doing on the southern side. We suspect that her cubs were still on Djuma. We weren't quite sure where. So we suspect that her cubs are still on Djuma. She might have made a kill to the south of us, in which case she's going to walk a straight line to those cubs, go and fetch them and take them back probably almost exactly where she crossed in the first place. But if she's hunting, she could crisscross through this block indefinitely until she finds something like those impala that she wants to try and catch. So now we just have to take our chances, go and check Treehouse Dam. She's probably not going for a drink. With a lot of animals, particularly lions, usually if you see them walking in the direction of a water hole, you head almost straight there immediately, because there's a very good chance that they're going to go and drink some water, whereas with leopards it's a bit harder. They're not water dependent really. They'll drink readily when there's water available, but they don't necessarily actively seek out water every day. So it makes them slightly harder to predict. Karula, of course, is the queen of many things, and one of them is being completely unpredictable. So I don't even know why I'm trying. Well, I've got to try and figure out where she's gone. And what I've been doing is I've been stopping periodically, because a leopard on the move, a leopard that is bent on being somewhere, perhaps to fetch her cubs, for example, isn't particularly bothered if it's seen. So you get alarm calls, you'll hear the impala start to bark, you'll hear a squirrel or two. So I've been stopping to listen for those sounds. And just while we're looking for Karula, I forgot to mention it because I was so distracted earlier, but I think it's absolutely wonderful that Byron's seen the first wildebeest calf. I'm so excited for those of you that perhaps are new to these safaris or have only been watching for a few months. I'm so excited for you to experience the joy that is wildebeest calving season. Baby wildebeest are hilarious. They are so much fun playing. I'm hoping they're going to be on quarantine in the not too distant future. Excuse me, have you seen a leopard? You don't look as though you've seen a leopard at all. Oh. Bye-bye. Oh, well done, Liam. One very rapidly moving squirrel. Bounce, 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 gone. Squirrel is one animal that will definitely let us know if Karula's here. Luckily I'm in Brent's vehicle, I'm in Rusty, so I can look for tracks without having to bend over the door. It's great fun. I'll come back to this nest. Let's just double check for Karula first. There's a lilac-breasted roller nest in one of those trees, but I'll come back to it, depending on our luck with the queen. I seem to be missing my royal appointments these days. We just seem to miss each other. You know it'll happen, because I said that she's probably not going to go drink. She's going to be at Treehouse Jam drinking. Just because. That's how it works. Let's check very carefully. It's quiet at the moment. Let's just do a quick check. We'll go up onto the dam wall. Gives us a nice height advantage, even if she isn't at the water's edge. It'll give us a nice vantage point. No tracks crossing the road yet. Oh, hi. A shame. Hello, Hippo. He's got a couple of injuries, probably from a fight with another hippo. This is the hippo that Stef's seen. I forgot completely that Stef had seen a hippo at Treehouse Dam. Ouch! That looks very sore. Big puncture wounds. The ox pickers probably aren't helping those heal up. Luckily, a hippo does secrete a substance that we sort of colloquially term blood sweat, that helps to clear up infection and actually has an antibiotic effect. Those to me look immediately like puncture wounds from a fight with another hippo, and they are just unfortunately so stressed out in terms of space that they are fighting each other regularly over what little water there is left. Shame, boy. Oh, Ilana, thank you for sending through another question, and good morning to you. You wanted to know what education and jobs we've had previously to or prior to getting this job. Well, Ilana, I had a bit of a strange a little bit of a strange entry into this job. I always wanted to do it from when I was a child. I wanted to be a vet. Actually, what I really wanted to be was a vet. Not that being a guide isn't wonderful, but I wanted to be a vet, but I'm very allergic to animals. Which doesn't really bode all that well for being a vet, but guiding was the next best thing. I've always loved being in the bush, and from when I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to be out here in one way or another. I worked in the Kalahari after I left school, but before I went to university or to college, and then I studied law. As you can see, I wasn't a particularly good lawyer. Wasn't necessarily. I would like to use it again in the future in terms of actually really contributing to the conservation of the animals in the areas as a whole. Then I did some training, and there's different training providers, and basically what you start off with is a basic level of training, and you do an exam, you do an entry-level exam, and you do an entry-level practical assessment where you have to take a game drive, and then from there the world is your oyster, and you can start improving. You can start. The most important thing in this sort of line of work is really a passion and a desire for knowledge and to spend time with the animals. So it's just time spent in the bush, and that's what really is. You'll find with all of us, we all have completely different approaches, completely different backgrounds, but we're all united by this complete fascination and inability to be anywhere else. That's how we all basically became guides. So it's lovely to hear from you, and I hope perhaps this is a career path that maybe you are considering. It would be lovely to add you to the list of young people that are really truly thinking about becoming a safari guide as a career. Zooming backwards, let's go and look for the Queen. Tina, lovely question coming through from you. You say, since everybody wants to go to Africa for their vacations, where do we go when we're on vacation? Most of the time we tend to stay in the bush, but just visit different parts. One of the things that we all love to do is explore different types of wilderness, different types of bush. At the moment, I've been spending quite a few holidays in and around Hoedspruit. My family, we often go back and visit our families because, of course, we're very far away, and we work 7 days a week, which means that you don't have the opportunity to go home for a weekend or something like that. So my mom is based in Joburg, my dad's based in the coast of South Africa. So we'll go and visit them. all sorts of things. And generally you'll find, but unfortunately for us as South Africans, our exchange rate makes overseas trips not impossible, but it does, it does sort of, there's only so many times you can go overseas on our South African rand at the moment. Wonderful for visitors who come and visit from America and from the UK. Means that you have a fantastically good value for your money, but it does make life more difficult for us. I dream of traveling to, I've got so many different places I would love to go to. I'd really like to go and see bears. I've never seen a bear in the wild. I'd love to see a polar bear as well. Just different places. I'd love to go to see tigers in the wild as well. And wolves. Wolves would be incredible. So there's lots of places we would love to go and dream of going, but for the most part you'll find a lot of us spend our vacations in the bush. We'll go into Kruger. Kruger's literally on our back doorstep, so we can go into Kruger, camp there for a few nights. VM often does that. He goes off to all kinds of exciting places. Oh dear, we just weren't quite quick enough getting here. I think Karula's given us the slip. No, Rebecca, I have not had enough cats for today. What is that? What is enough cats for the day? Got her. Shall I go back or shall I? Alright, I'm going to hop out and do a little bit of a stroll to see whether or not we can double check up on Karula. But while we do that, we'll send you over to Byron to find out where he is and what he's up to.
Well, Jamie's been tracking and looking for big cats and leopards in particular. I've been trying to do some birding. We've seen some interesting little birds, a lot of woodland kingfishers around, a lot more now than there were a week ago or so. And now, Ilana, I know you asked Jamie and Stef about what they did before they got this job, or how they got into this line of work. So I was a little bit different to them, I think, because, well, I grew up, my family loved going to the bush, so we used to go, on all our holidays. We would go on safari in different areas, different parts of South Africa, and up into Botswana, so I always loved it. But then after school, I did a little course and got my qualifications in guiding, just out of interest's sake, but I didn't think I'd wanted to do it permanently. I then went and studied and did a business degree, and I looked for some work in Johannesburg and got a job from a friend of mine who offered me a sales job. I did that for 4 months, and I said it's not for me, and I don't like the big city at all. So then I managed to come out and work in the bush, and from then I've just been permanently in the bush. So from about 2008 permanently in the bush, but I was guiding and working in the bush before that, but been permanently in the bush since then. So, and it was the best decision I think I ever made, was to come out into the bush. And I worked permanently for a lodge for 5 years, and then started my own business, and now get to take people all over on safari, which is wonderful, all over Africa. And so it's very, very different, and like Jamie said, we've all had a slightly different background and introduction to the bush. But from living in the city and working in the city to moving out here, and it's funny, 3 of my friends that started with me when we started guiding at Londolozi in 2008 or 2009, 3 of them were all qualified accountants, and they gave it up and they decided to come and work in the bush for a few years. But one of them is still involved in the bush. 2 of them have gone back to finance. The one actually got the best of both worlds. So he works in finance, but he's still at the lodge. So he's in the bush and he gets to do what he loves by going out and photographing animals, and then he still does a bit of the finance. So best of both worlds, I suppose. Wow, they've put some new sand around here. I'm trying to make these bolsters. We call them bolsters, and what they're used for is to, when it rains, they're there to prevent water from running down the road constantly and pushes the water off, so it avoids erosion. So that's what these are for. But these are new ones. They still need to be basically molded correctly or shaped correctly. They shouldn't be that steep. Trying to scan for any birds. It's so difficult to sometimes get the birds on camera. They fly away very, very quickly. Oh, there's a bird of prey flying up there. Let's see. It looks like a Wahlberg's eagle from here, but let me see with my binoculars. Oh dear. What is that? It does look like a dark form of a Wahlberg's eagle. It's a bit difficult to see now in that light, but it does appear to be the dark form of a Wahlberg's eagle. It's very difficult, especially with the glare at the moment of the cloud cover, to really see these birds. Even with binoculars, I'm struggling quite a bit to see the color and some of the key little factors that we look for, with the color of the beak or the cere, this top section, the legs. Sure, it's very, very bright there at the moment with this glare of the clouds. Interesting cloud cover. All right, we're gonna while we move through this area. Rebecca just made me laugh. These speed bumps, she thinks these are big speed bumps that we're going over. Let's head back to Stef and see what he's got on the bushwalk.
You know, I can't even hear Byron laugh, but just the imagination I have about him laughing makes me want to laugh as well. I mean, I don't know, we're all a bit insane, I think, today. It's the change of the season, and it's the sun, it's baking down too much. Now, you know, keeping to our theme of camouflaged insects, come and have a look and see if you can see what I'm seeing. I'm going to give you the patch of bush, plus minus, that it's in, and see if you can see what is in there. Roughly, in this area are two animals. See if you can see where they are and what they are, and they are about as long as your thumb, so they're about 1 inch long. Got it yet? No? Alright, let me see if you've seen it. Have a look right here. From there to there are two locusts. There's these locusts that live on these sandy patches here that look exactly like rocks. They are joined because they're mating with one another. The larger male with the smaller female, as far as I can see. And just have a look at that. Isn't that the most amazing thing you've ever seen in terms of camouflage? Using a camouflage technique called disruptive patterning, leopard have a very similar coat pattern in that the edges, the thing that creates the silhouette, is broken up by alternating bands of light and dark and a bunch of other different colors. And what it does is it basically breaks up the shape. So with locusts, they want to break up the shape from the top down, not from the side on. Leopard are walking through the ground and need to break up their shape silhouetted from the side of their bodies. These locusts need to break up their shape from the top of their bodies. So what we'll do is we'll swing you around over to the top of these locusts in a second, and you can see how deceptively efficient this particular camouflage is. And it's not by adding anything on top of them. There's no fizz of hair or fringe of fur or anything like that. It literally just is what you can see there. I don't even, you know, I'm looking into the viewfinder right now and I don't even know if, I can't even see these locusts. That's right. It is them. Jandre is just confirming it before. I think let's go a little bit closer and see if we can. I'm going to put a piece of grass or this thorn above them again. There you go. The point of the thorn is directly in the middle of the two. The one's head is there and the other one's head is here. Amazing, hey? And they're sitting dead still, even though there's these two giants right next to them. Oh, there they go, they moved. And that'll actually give you a nice indication here of how they defend themselves when they finally do get seen. On the inside of the leg here, you might notice that red coloration. Look at that. That is called flash coloration. It's designed to startle a would-be predator. That massively red color. There you go, on the inside of the leg. You see that, Johnny? And that's designed to startle a predator. So what will happen is a bird will come along. This grasshopper will get a fright and go, okay, this bird is getting a little bit too close now, and jump away with that bright red flash in the face of that bird. And the bird will go, wow, what does that? And hopefully, by the time the bird recovers itself, this grasshopper's hunkered down again on the floor and is as camouflaged as he can be, and the bird passes on. Isn't that just amazing? Flash coloration, we see it quite often in frogs as well, also on the inside of the legs, and then in some locusts on the wings, and in some insects, in actual fact, stick insects and locusts have it on their wings. They'll be very camouflaged, and the second they fly open with their wings open, this bash of color will come out. Now, Viola, you wanted to know what one is the female. Let me see if I can see for you. Well, okay, maybe not. Where did you go now? Okay. Viola, I could tell you that the one on the left-hand side was the female, was the male. He had the wings. The female was the one on the right-hand side, the slightly smaller one. She was flightless. That's generally how it is with the locusts. There's just one small thing that was worrying me in that whole bit. Now, exactly that. Flash coloration in my face, jumped at me, I got a fright, and then they've now landed and have become virtually invisible again. The only thing that I'd ask for you to check, of course, is that in some locusts the females are large and flightless. In this particular case, the winged member of this pair was larger than the smaller one. Now, that's what makes me say it was a male. I could be wrong in this particular species of grasshoppers. I don't have my book with me right now. I'm going to have to check that when I get back to camp. In this particular, these locusts that like to live on these open sandy patches, whether or not the female is smaller or likely to be smaller than the male, and whether or not the male is winged. I would imagine that the males are winged and the females aren't. It's much safer just to stay hidden than it is to fly around here with all the spiders and the birds. Now, Ilana, you have asked a little bit earlier what I studied to become a field guide out here. Now, Ilana, back when I became a field guide, there were no schools to train for field guiding. I went to university to study a science degree in zoology and geology, and happily didn't finish it, although I'm not telling you that you must finish your school. I didn't finish it. I had a love for just wanting to interpret the bush, not really wanting to work in the bottom of a mine. And a friend of mine, a gentleman called Lee Guttridge, introduced me to field guiding and asked me to come for an interview at a company that had an in-house training school. And that is basically the end of that. I studied in-house, did all my levels, and then there was a genesis in the field guiding industry around about the year 2000, where there was a national body created that set different levels and provided learning material for field guides. And now all of a sudden, field guides from all over the country, or aspiring field guides from all over the country, could learn on their own, write a test, and be judged a certain level in field guiding, and could register as a field guide, and could start operating as field guides. After that, there were schools that have now taken that on, and now you can go to school and you can study to become a field guide in about 6 months. There are schools that offer it slightly shorter, and you can do it even through correspondence if you want to. But there's about 6 months to get everything that you need in order to to be registered as a fully fledged field guide, and 6 months later, with some hours logged and some experience logged, you can go on to the different levels. So after 12 months of training about and some experience bashing around here in the bush, you can too become a field guide anywhere in South Africa. And that's basically about as easy as it is to do. Not much more from there, really. I mean, there are different levels. The levels that you can attain is quite diverse. I mean, I would be honest with you and say that the highest levels to achieve would be the tracking levels to achieve, and they take 15-20 years to achieve some of these levels. Now, Michael, you've asked me, how does someone from America study to become a field guide? Relatively easy. You can do it correspondence. There's the Field Guides Association of Southern Africa, FGASA, have a website that you can go onto. You can get some study material. Even Jean-Ray, our cameraman today, has been studying correspondence for his level 1 field guide exam. You can do that anywhere in the world, really, and then you can come out to South Africa and be assessed on those standards with any of the assessors that we have. We have a multitude of assessors. It'll be a bit more difficult to start working as a field guide in South Africa. South Africa, like very many third world countries in the world, have a very, very high unemployment rate, and field guiding is one of those absolutely epic occupations that anybody from any walk of life, from any station, can become with enough commitment. And so difficult to get a work permit to work as a field guide in South Africa. I'm just sort of setting the expectation there, but definitely easy to study. To know what I know, you can also study that. Wherever you are in this world, you can study basically what we do out here in Africa and learn about African animals and African insects and a bunch of different stuff. So using that Field Guides Association of Southern Africa website, you can go and get it down, Michael, and get yourself down to Africa and get assessed, and hopefully come and show me a thing or two on one of these days. All right, why don't we send you through to Jamie for an update.
Okay, so we've picked up on Karula's tracks and they are heading in this direction. She's gone off into what we call a drainage line, which is essentially like a riverbed that drains into Treehouse Dam, and she's moved in there. Now, I've come through to the opposite side of the drainage line to see if we could spot her from here. Her tracks haven't come out, which immediately tells me that she's still in there. And I'm not going to waste my time going all the way back and around, because I know where her tracks came from, and she's probably not going to double back. So we're going to double back and see if we can't pick up on where she is. It's such a funny thing, you know. A lot of what we do, I mean, we've practiced and we've worked it very hard in terms of reading animals and finding them, working out where they're going to go, but some of it is pure luck, and the split-second decisions that we make determine what we're going to see, because those tracks are crispy fresh, beautiful. She just made them, and I came to a fork in the road where I nearly went straight to Treehouse Dam, and I thought, no, don't be silly, don't jump the gun, you don't know exactly where she's crossed. Let's go and look for her, let's go check where she crossed and then try and find her. And I have a feeling, I'll never know, I have a feeling if I'd just taken the left turn instead of carrying on straight, if I'd just taken that first left turn, I think we would have found her. And sometimes gut instinct is perhaps the better way forward. I know we just missed her, and now I'm too scared. I don't want to go too far away doing a big loop, because we're going to miss her again if we're not careful. She's just in here somewhere. Davio, good morning. While we do loops around a very familiar area, you want to know if we ever get lost out here? Yes, sometimes. Obviously now we've been driving around these areas for a long time and we've spent many hours on the road. You're joking? Oh no, it's a hyena. Phew! I thought she was on top of my vehicle tracks. Yes, we get lost. It's been a long time since I've been misplaced. What often happens is we know where we are, but we don't necessarily know what the road is called. I'm like that. I do that particularly up in Arathusa in the top northwestern corner, and sometimes on Cheetah Plains as well, although Cheetah Plains is slightly simpler. We have all been lost many times, and when you first start guiding and you've got guests in the back, it's amazing how disorienting the dark can be. And you're driving around and where you thought you were is not where you were, you've missed a turn in the dark, particularly on large traverse areas, and now you're bumbling around, you've got tired, hungry guests in the back, and you've got absolutely no idea where you are. And once you build up the confidence and you're more comfortable in yourself, then it's very easy to turn around to the guests and have a good laugh and say, "No, I'm sorry guys, I've got turned around, I don't know where I am." But when you first start out, that admission feels like you're admitting defeat. So you don't want to tell them. So you wind up pretending that you know where you are and you've got no idea. And these poor guests are wondering why their drive has been so prolonged, until eventually you have to admit and tell them that you are completely misplaced. The only time we really are we're not really likely to get lost at now, to be honest. Sometimes we accidentally stray just slightly outside of our traverse area, but we always realize and come back. It's very easy to do when you're concentrating on other things. James. But the only time we're likely to get lost is when it's cloudy. It can be a bit disorienting when it's cloudy, because your sense of direction can sometimes be just a slight bit off in terms of where north is. But at night, with stars, it's very easy to find your way around. And you're never really lost. You've just got to pick a direction and go in it, and you'll be fine. Where I used to work, I had an easy time because there were 2 rivers. And if you were lost, you just went south until you hit a river, and then you knew where you were. That we don't have here, but it is a much smaller area. I am going to find the Queen of Djuma, but why oh why did the spider catch the fly? We'll have to go to Stef to find out.
Jamie, I tell you, she comes up with the most imaginative things. That is indeed a praying mantis that's just busy finishing off a fly, and on this peltiforum, this African weeping wattle, absolutely magnificent showcase of flowers. And what you're seeing there is a pretty unique praying mantis. I haven't seen this praying mantis yet. What makes it unique is the fact that it has exposed wings. Most of the praying mantis use their wings as part of their camouflage. This particular praying mantis has no need for it for some reason, and I can only imagine it's probably as a bit of a lure. Its primary prey species would be other insects with exposed wings, and I suppose we all like to gravitate towards what we know, and I would imagine that this particular praying mantis attracts its prey by looking like something else and then catches it. Now, what that praying mantis did catch there was a fly. Now think about it, flies, try and catch a housefly and think how difficult it is. This praying mantis probably snatched this fly out of the air as it came to land on this flower. Just unbelievable. Today's just been one of those amazing walks where we've been able to really start showing you all the magnificence around summertime. This is my favorite time of year, leading towards January, which as favorite part of the year is summer, but leading to my favorite month in January, just with the absolute profusion and diversity of life. And these showy peltiforums are just a never-ending source of amazement. They just have just an incredible array of different insects. This one in particular seems to be host to a bunch of flies pollinating the flowers, and then some beetles. Whoa, I just got punched in the face by one. Let me see if I can catch you one. This is a fruit chafer. I'm going to show you. This I think is called the bicolored fruit chafer. There you go. Have a look at how pretty that is. Absolute iridescent elytra. Those are the wing covers. In beetles, these have become quite hard. And although they've got 2 pairs of wings, these and a diaphanous pair underneath that they use for flight. These ones are used to protect them and then also become quite showy, as you can see. Oh, okay, he flew away. So that was, as far as I know or can remember, that's the bicolored fruit chafer, but definitely one of the fruit chafers. And they swim literally through the flowers. Them and carpenter bees swim through the flowers, eating the anthers and the filaments and the stamens of the flowers, and in so doing get covered in pollen. And then they go over to the next peltaphorum, another showy flower in a different part of the reserve, and swim through their flowers. And what they do then is wipe off the pollen that they arrive with, and that pollen then goes into the female parts of the flower, travels down to the ovum, I think, if you want to say. I can't remember my biology 101. And there will pollinate the flower, creating a seed, and eventually these trees will be covered in seeds towards the end of summer, once they've had some chance to develop, and then will drop off and lie on the ground. Now, I hear Byron has another flower to show you, so why don't we send you there?
2, 1.
And look at what we have found, these beautiful flowers. Now, this is a wild hibiscus. Really, really beautiful yellow flowers with this incredibly dark maroon color on the inside. So beautiful. It's so nice to see little flowers like this out here. And a lot of flowers will hopefully start flowering soon again. We've got some morning glories around, but nice to see these beautiful wild hibiscus. Just trying to see if there are any other flowers around at the moment, but just shows you while we're driving, we're also looking for little things like this. And I know Stef also enjoys the flowers while he's out on bushwalk, but it is wonderful to be able to see beautiful flowers like this out in the middle of the bush. It is incredible to see them. We've had a lovely morning. So happy we got to see those little wildebeest calves, that newborn little calf. Wasn't that just incredible? Just going to jump back in here quickly. That was a highlight for me, definitely. Seeing a newborn little calf. And then, Jamie had all the luck with the cats this morning. I'm a little bit jealous, I won't lie. No, even though the female leopard Karula evaded her, I'm sure we might have some luck this afternoon, perhaps. But anyway, we'll see you out on safari this afternoon again for our sunset safari. So from myself and Hat, my cameraman this morning, I hope you've had a wonderful morning with us. Goodbye everyone, and let's head back to Jamie. We'll see you all later.
Oh, what a wonderful morning it has been from our lion, surprise lion, and then surprise leopard in the form of Shadow. Wonderful to catch up with her once again. And then almost a sighting of Karula. But we'll have to, I think, for the sunrise safari, settle for a view of a Steenbok instead. Little male, tiny little thing. Oh! Hello, gorgeous. You can see its little dagger-like horns sticking out of the top of its head. Be careful, little Steenbok. Somewhere not too far away from where you are now, the queen is lurking, and perhaps intent on searching out and finding breakfast. I'm sure she's in here. I know she's in here. I'm still so frustrated with myself. I missed her. Just one bad decision. Not bad decision, wrong decision. This is a very relaxed little Steenbok. How lovely. What a nice way to finish off our sunrise safari. And one last question coming through from Marco. Lovely to hear from you. You wanted to know whether or not with all of the rains coming through, will it be triggering more births as opposed to the hot or dry weather with all of these pregnant antelope? Not necessarily, no. So what the rains will do, they won't trigger any births, but what they will do is they'll help the antelope. They will help the antelope manage to get the nutrients that they need to get the pregnancies to full term, which most of them already have, at least for the impala and the wildebeest, but to get their pregnancies to full term, and also for the little ones to have good quality milk from the moms, because of course the moms have to feed them, and therefore they have to have a good supply of food. So whilst the rains won't trigger the births, there is a reason why antelope are born in this season. Almost all of the antelope, even if they don't have a strict breeding season like the impala and the wildebeest, almost all of them will have a peak birthing season in the rainy season. And that makes total sense that nature's arranged things that way, because it's the best time of year for the antelope. There's more cover to hide behind, and there's more food. And therefore it makes more sense to have your babies during the rainy season. And of course, it still remains to be seen whether or not we're going to have a good rainy season or not. I'm hopeful. It's a much, much cooler summer than it was last year this time. I'm hoping that might mean some rain is on the way, and that things will go, if not completely back to normal, because I'm not entirely sure that there is a normal out here, but once the rains do come and once things do go back to normal, hopefully we have an average rainfall year. Right, and on that note, it is time for us to say farewell. I'm going to be searching for the Queen of Djuma this afternoon. They'll have to join us on the sunset safari to find out whether or not we have any luck. But until then, hold on a second, got to dodge something in the road. Until then, from myself and Liam, a big thank you and farewell, and we will catch up with you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
Now we're still with this magnificent Peltiforum tree, and we've just moved on to a different flower, and I want to show you 3 different insects over here that are helping to pollinate. For those of you who watch the show religiously, you'll know that Mr. James Henry has a tent, and in his tent he has a giraffe skull, and in his giraffe skull is the nest of a bunch of stingless bees, mopani bees. We have some mopani bees that are collecting pollen. Here we go. Have a look at that. Now, you see them at their nest, but very often you don't get to see them collecting pollen, and you'll notice those yellow pollen sacs at the base of the back legs were full with pollen. So the bee itself will crawl into the flowers and pack pollen into these sacs at the bottom of their legs, then transport those pollen back to the hive, and the pollen is mixed with saliva and water, and then basically it's distilled, no, not distilled, it's evaporated into honey at the end of the day, and that's what the resultant honey is. And you can see them here, fast at work. So somewhere around here there's an mopani bee colony. Equally, there was a fly that was busy pollinating these flowers, and then there is a species of daytime moth or burnet here. Have a look at that. That is a moth camouflaged as a beetle, and almost exactly the same shade of color as these flowers are. Now, Stephanie, you wanted to know, is it possible to become a field guide past 40 or when you're getting a little bit older, or is it exclusive to training as a young person? Stephanie, you can become a field guide here at any age. In actual fact, I've got very many of my friends that only got to or eligible for field guiding training when they were in their 40s, even some in their 50s. I have 2 or 3 of my African friends that have retired as field guides, and many field guides across Africa only really get into their prime and into their swinging in their late 40s and in their 50s. So absolutely, you can get into field guiding not only in Africa but in any country, as far as I'm aware, as far as I believe, at any time. It requires just wanting to become a naturalist, or being a naturalist and being interested in things like this. The training itself has no maximum age restriction. It has a minimum age restriction of 21, but no maximum age restriction to commercially field guide, at least in South Africa. The reason why there's a minimum age is simply for a driver's permit. So people who drive, you've seen all the Land Rovers around over here with their guides that drive their guests around in the car. They need to have a special permit to drive around in South Africa. That permit requires a minimum age limit of 21. That's basically the only restriction for that. Now, we are coming to the end of the show, and it's at this time of the day that I just want to say thank you very, very much for all your support from myself and Jean-Andre, but also for Byron and Jamie and for all the FC ladies. I just want to say thank you very, very much. Keep on watching, keep on asking your questions, keep on the support. We really, really value it. Now, we're going to be up this afternoon again, Central Africa time at 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. We will see you. So wherever you are in this world, have a fantastic day further.